The first siren of war came without warning. The sky above Earth was silent one moment and burning the next. Giant shapes appeared beyond the clouds, massive alien ships, sleek and black, moving like shadows through lightning. People thought it was the end of everything. Among the chaos stood Captain Elias Grant, a young soldier who had never known fear until that day. He wasn't a hero by choice. He was just a man caught in the middle of something far bigger than himself. The sky opened and light poured down. The alien invasion had begun. The aliens were not like anything humanity had seen. They were tall, armored, and their movements were too graceful for creatures of war. Their technology was far beyond human understanding. Ships that hovered without sound, weapons that fired beams of pure energy. But the strangest thing was that they didn't kill everyone. They took control, fast and precise, as if following orders not to destroy but to occupy. Elias and his unit were deployed near the ruins of New Kyoto, a once beautiful city now covered in smoke and ash. Communication lines were dead and the command center had gone silent. He and his squad were surrounded. They had one mission: to survive. That night the rain fell heavy and dark. Elias could hear the hum of alien drones in the distance, searching for survivors. His squad hid in a collapsed subway tunnel. They were 5 soldiers at the start. By morning, only Elias and his friend Mason remained. "What do you think they want?" Mason whispered, his voice trembling. "Not sure," Elias said. "If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead already." Through the broken glass and fire, Elias saw one of them, a figure moving with calm, deliberate steps. She was unlike the others. Her armor shimmered like liquid metal, and her face, though alien, carried something almost human in it. Eyes that glowed softly, silver hair braided down her back. She moved among her soldiers like a queen among shadows. "She's giving orders," Mason muttered. "Yeah," Elias said quietly. "She's leading them." They watched her from the dark, breath held, hearts pounding. She was beautiful in a way Elias couldn't understand, dangerous yet calm, fierce yet fragile. Something inside him stirred, a feeling he couldn't name. Suddenly a drone scanned the tunnel. Blue light swept across them. "Run!" Elias shouted. Mason fired, the beam hit the drone and it exploded, lighting up the tunnel like lightning. But it was too late. The alien patrol turned their way. Energy blasts hit the walls, sparks flew, and Mason went down screaming. Elias dragged him, but the wound was fatal. Mason's last words were quiet. "Don't let them take you alive." Then the light surrounded Elias. He turned and saw her. The alien leader, the one with silver hair and eyes like ice. She stood a few steps away, her weapon aimed at him. But she didn't fire, their eyes met. For a long moment, there was only silence. The war faded, the noise disappeared, and Elias felt something impossible: mercy. She spoke in perfect English, her voice calm, melodic. "Surrender, human. You don't have to die today." Elias didn't answer. His mind raced. He should have fought. He should have run. But her voice held something that stopped him, a strange sadness. "Who are you?" he asked. She tilted her head. "The one you call enemy." Her soldiers surrounded him, but she raised her hand. "No harm to him," she ordered. The others obeyed instantly. As they marched him away, Elias saw her ship, a golden structure hovering above the ruins, glowing like a star. He didn't know it then, but this was not the end of war. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. Inside the alien ship, Elias was not treated like a prisoner. He was given food, water, even medical care. The corridors were lit with soft light, symbols on the walls pulsing gently as if alive. Everything was too perfect, too strange. Days passed. No one spoke to him. Except her. She visited him once without guards. "You fought bravely," she said. "Why did you resist when your people already surrendered?" Elias looked up. "Because freedom isn't something we give away." She studied him quietly. Then, almost too softly to hear, she said, "Your kind still believes in freedom. That's rare. Who are you?" he asked again. Her eyes glimmered like silver fire. "I am Lyra, princess of the Elian Dominion." Elias froze. The story said the aliens were ruthless conquerors. But she didn't look like a monster. She looked tired, lonely even. "You don't act like a conqueror," he said. She smiled faintly. "And you don't act like a slave." And just like that, something changed between them. A spark that neither of them understood. Outside, the war burned across galaxies. Inside that ship, something else had begun. a fragile connection between two enemies that would soon decide the fate of both their worlds. Elias woke to the sound of soft humming. The room around him glowed with pale light that shifted gently like waves. It didn't feel like a prison cell, more like a strange hospital room. The air was warm and there was a faint scent of metal and rain. He sat up slowly. His uniform had been replaced with a clean gray outfit. His arm was bandaged, his wounds healed almost completely. Everything about this place was calm, but it was the calm before a storm. The door opened with a hiss and Lyra walked in. She wasn't wearing her armor this time. Instead, she wore a flowing outfit made of silver fabric that shimmered as she moved. Her long braided hair glowed faintly in the soft light. "You're recovering fast," she said. Her tone was steady, almost emotionless, but her eyes told a different story. There was curiosity in them, and something else, something like concern. Elias stood up. "You're their leader," he said. "You could have killed me." "Why didn't you?" Lyra looked at him for a moment, then said, "Because I wanted to understand you." "Understand me?" he repeated. "What's there to understand? You invaded my planet." Her lips curved slightly. "And yet you fight even when there is no hope. That makes you different." Elias crossed his arms. "You mean foolish?" "No," she said softly. "Alive." Her words hung in the air. There was silence between them again, heavy but not cold. She turned to leave, then paused. "You'll be moved soon. The High Council wants to see you." "Your council?" Elias asked. "Yes," she said. "They believe humans may still be useful." "And what do you believe?" he asked. Lyra turned back, her expression unreadable. "I believe," she said quietly, "that war always hides a truth people are too afraid to see." Before he could respond, the door closed behind her. Hours passed. Elias tried to make sense of everything. The aliens didn't act like destroyers. They were organized, almost ritualistic. They didn't loot or burn cities. They studied them, rebuilt what they had broken. It was like they wanted to understand Earth, not destroy it. When the guards came for him, they led him through corridors lined with glowing blue veins that pulsed like living things. He saw other humans, some injured, some scared, but alive. The aliens didn't hurt them. They scanned, treated, and marked them with strange symbols on their wrists. Finally, Elias entered a grand chamber filled with floating lights. At the center sat 5 aliens on silver thrones, their armor shining like liquid glass. Lyra stood beside them. An elder alien, taller and older than the rest, spoke first. "Human soldier, you are Captain Elias Grant of the Terran Defense Army?" "Yes," Elias said firmly. "You led resistance against our forces near New Kyoto." "I defended my home." The elder's voice deepened. "Do you still intend to fight us?" Elias hesitated. "If I have to." The chamber grew silent. Then Lyra stepped forward. "He speaks truthfully," she said. "He doesn't fear us. That makes him valuable." "Valuable?" One of the council members scoffed. "He is dangerous." Lyra looked at Elias, then back at the council. "Sometimes danger reveals what peace cannot." The council murmured among themselves. Finally, the elder nodded. "Very well. He will remain under your watch, Princess Lyra. If he resists, his life is your responsibility." Lyra bowed her head slightly. "Understood." As they left the chamber, Elias walked beside her. "You just saved my life again," he said. She didn't look at him. "Perhaps I did it for my people?" "I don't think so," he said quietly. That made her stop. She turned to him, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "You think you know me, human?" "No," Elias said. "But I know kindness when I see it." Her face softened for the briefest moment. Then she walked ahead without a word. That night, Elias stood near a window overlooking the alien city within the ship. It wasn't made of metal and glass like human cities. It was alive, growing, breathing, a network of light and energy. It was beautiful. He thought about the war, about Mason, about everything he had lost. But most of all, he thought about Lyra, the alien princess who spoke like a soldier and looked at him as if she saw something no one else did. Then, without warning, the ship shook violently. Sirens blared in alien tones. Guards rushed past him, shouting in their language. Elias grabbed a nearby railing. "What's happening?" he yelled. A guard shouted something, but before Elias could move, the wall exploded. A blast of light and smoke threw him to the floor. Through the haze, he saw figures boarding the ship. Other aliens, not aliens. They wore dark red armor, their weapons glowing with crimson light. An invasion. Inside an invasion. Elias crawled toward the corridor. He saw Lyra surrounded by her guards, fighting off the attackers. Her movements were fast, precise, almost inhuman. One of the red-armored soldiers aimed at her from behind. "Lyra!" Elias shouted. She turned and saw the danger. The blast hit her shoulder instead of her heart. She fell hard, her weapon dropping beside her. Without thinking, Elias ran toward her, grabbed her and pulled her behind cover. "Stay down," he said, firing the fallen weapon wildly at the attackers. Lyra looked at him in shock. "You're protecting me?" Elias gritted his teeth. "Guess we're even now." The corridor filled with fire and smoke. The ship trembled again. In that moment, neither human nor alien mattered. Only survival did. And as the chaos burned around them, something unspoken grew between them, a connection neither of them could deny anymore. Smoke filled the corridor. Sparks fell from the ceiling as alarms screamed through the alien ship. Elias pulled Lyra to her feet, her shoulder armor cracked and glowing faintly where the shot had hit. She winced but stayed strong. "We have to move," he shouted. "I can fight," she said through clenched teeth. Her voice was steady even in pain. He handed her the weapon he had taken from one of the fallen guards. "Then fight beside me." They ran through the burning hallway together. Red-armored soldiers poured in from every direction. The alien guards were losing ground. Elias fired again and again, covering Lyra as she sent arcs of blue energy slicing through the air. Her movements were beautiful and terrifying, grace mixed with power. When the smoke cleared, 3 attackers lay still. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Elias looked at her shoulder. The wound was worse than she admitted. "You need help," he said. She shook her head. "There's a med station nearby. We'll reach it." "Not if this ship keeps shaking apart." Lyra pressed a glowing crystal on her wrist. A holographic map appeared in mid-air, flickering. "This way," she said, pointing down a narrow maintenance tunnel. They slipped inside, the sounds of battle echoing behind them. The tunnel was dim, lined with pipes that pulsed with soft blue light. Elias could hear her breathing grow heavier. Without thinking, he took her arm to steady her. "Don't touch me," she said sharply. "Fine," he replied, letting go. "Just trying to keep you alive." After a moment, her tone softened. "Humans always try to protect. Even when they are weak? Maybe," he said. "But we protect what matters." Her eyes met his in the dark. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then the ship rocked again, throwing them both against the wall. The light flickered out. Total darkness. Elias reached for the emergency lamp on the wall and switched it on. Its glow was faint, painting their faces in blue. Lyra's expression was unreadable. "Who are they?" he asked. "The ones attacking you?" "Rebels," she said quietly. "Aliens who no longer serve the Dominion. They want to take me alive." "Why you?" "Because I'm the heir. If they control me, they control the throne." He stared at her. "So your own people are hunting you?" Her eyes dropped. "Not all wars are between species, Elias. Some begin at home." They kept moving. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with strange machinery and glowing cocoons of light. Elias stopped, amazed. "What is this place?" Lyra hesitated. "It's our life core, the ship's heart. Every alien vessel grows from these cells." "Grows?" Elias repeated. "Like it's alive?" "In a way," she said. "Our ships are living beings. We do not build them, we raise them." Elias stepped closer to one of the glowing pods. Inside, faint shapes moved like shadows underwater. "That's incredible." Lyra smiled faintly despite the pain. "You look at it without fear. Most humans would call it unnatural." "Maybe it is," he said. "But it's also beautiful." For the first time, she laughed softly. It was a quiet sound, like music breaking through storm clouds. Their moment ended when heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber. Red-armored soldiers were closing in. Lyra raised her weapon, but her injured arm trembled. "Get behind me," Elias said. "No," she replied. "We fight together," the first soldier charged. Elias fired. Lyra struck with a burst of blue light. They fought side by side, their movements instinctively matched. When the last enemy fell, the silence returned, broken only by the hum of the living ship. Lyra stumbled, her strength fading. Elias caught her before she fell. "Easy," he said. "You're safe now." She looked up at him, her eyes softer than before. You risked your life for me again, why? Because you did the same for me, he said simply. She smiled weakly. Humans are strange. And you're not? He teased. Her gaze held his for a long time. Elias, when this is over, nothing will be the same. Before he could ask what she meant, a glowing portal opened nearby. A transport field. Lyra's voice turned urgent. The escape pod, hurry! They stepped through the light just as the chamber exploded behind them. The sound was deafening, the flash blinding. When Elias opened his eyes, they were inside a smaller vessel drifting away from the burning warship. Lyra slumped in her seat, pale but alive. Elias strapped her in and looked out the window. The stars stretched endlessly across the dark. Where are we going? He asked. She closed her eyes. Somewhere safe. But not for long, he frowned. You mean they'll come after us? She nodded slowly. Both sides will. As the small ship entered the void between stars, Elias realized something impossible had begun. A human soldier and an alien princess, both enemies, both hunted, were now bound by something greater than war. And for the first time since the invasion began, Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The stars outside the escape pod looked calm, but the alarms inside told another story. The ship was failing. Sparks flashed across the controls and the navigation system blinked red. We're losing power, Elias said, gripping the edge of the console. Lyra pressed her glowing wristband against the control panel, trying to override the system. The energy core is damaged. I can't stabilize it. The pod shuddered hard, throwing both of them forward. Elias slammed a hand against the wall to steady himself. What does that mean? Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with quiet worry. It means we're going down. Outside the window, a planet appeared, blue and green, covered in swirling clouds. The pod entered its atmosphere like a falling star burning across the sky. The walls heated up and the metal screamed. Hold on, Elias shouted. They hit the surface with a thunderous crash. The pod skidded across the ground, cutting through trees and dirt before finally stopping. Smoke filled the cabin. For a moment, there was only silence. Elias coughed and pushed himself up. Lyra, are you... I'm here, she said weakly. She was lying against the wall, her armor cracked. He moved to her side and helped her sit up. Outside, strange purple leaves drifted down from the trees. The planet was quiet, the air heavy but breathable. Twin suns shone above the horizon. Elias opened the hatch and stepped outside. Looks like we found paradise, he muttered. Lyra followed, limping slightly. This world isn't on any of our star maps. It's unclaimed space. Elias glanced at her. Then maybe it's safe. Safe, she repeated softly. For now, they set up a small shelter beside the pod. Lyra used pieces of alien tech to create a small energy shield, glowing faintly blue around their camp. The light shimmered like a soft dome. Hours passed. Elias scavenged for anything useful. Metal, cables, food rations from the pod's emergency kit. Lyra sat by a strange glowing plant, repairing a small device with careful hands. You know, he said, sitting beside her. You never told me why you were really leading the invasion. Lyra didn't look up. Because my father ordered it. The Emperor. She nodded. To him, peace is weakness. He believes the Dominion must conquer or die. I was raised to obey. Elias looked at her face, the sadness in her eyes. But you don't believe that. She paused, her hands still. I used to. Until I saw your world. Until I saw people fight for each other, not for power. Elias smiled faintly. That's what humans do best. We argue, we fail, but we don't give up. Lyra finally looked at him. That's what makes you dangerous. The way she said it wasn't cruel, it was almost admiring. Night came quickly. The sky turned dark purple, filled with glowing stars and drifting lights like jellyfish swimming through the air. Elias sat near the fire while Lyra worked silently on the small device. What is that? He asked. A signal beacon, she said. I'm trying to send a false transmission to make them think we're dead. Elias frowned. You mean your people? Yes, and the rebels. He stared at the flames. You're risking everything for me. Lyra's voice softened. Maybe I'm risking it for both of us. They fell quiet again, listening to the sound of the alien night. Strange creatures sang in the distance, their calls echoing through the trees. After a while, Elias spoke again. You ever wonder what would happen if we hadn't met like this? Lyra smiled faintly. If you hadn't tried to shoot me? He chuckled. Yeah, that. Maybe, she said, we would still be enemies. Maybe I'd still believe humans were savages. And maybe you'd still believe aliens have no heart? Elias looked into her silver eyes. Do you? She hesitated. I'm starting to think hearts aren't so different. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The wind carried glowing dust across the clearing, and the light reflected in her hair made her look almost unreal. Elias didn't know what to say. He just watched her quietly, like someone seeing the stars for the first time. Then the silence broke, a sharp sound, mechanical, close by. Elias jumped to his feet. What was that? Lyra's eyes narrowed. Scanner drone. A red light swept through the trees, moving closer. Lyra grabbed her weapon. It's not ours. Rebels? Elias asked. She nodded grimly. They found us. They ducked behind the pod as the drone passed overhead, scanning the area. Lyra fired once. The beam hit dead center, and the drone exploded in a burst of red light. But it was too late. The explosion sent a signal straight into the sky. Lyra cursed under her breath. They'll trace it. We have hours, maybe less. Elias looked toward the forest. Then we don't stay here. Where will we go? She asked. He looked up at the two suns setting over the horizon. Wherever they can't find us. Lyra's gaze softened again. You're stubborn, human, he smiled. And you're bleeding again. She looked down at her shoulder and sighed. You talk too much. Someone has to, he said, wrapping a bandage around her arm. You're terrible at resting. She gave him a look that could have melted steel, but she didn't pull away. They packed what little they had and began walking into the forest, the soft light of twin moons guiding their way. As they disappeared into the alien night, the wrecked pod burned faintly behind them. Somewhere above, two opposing fleets searched the stars for them. Neither side would stop until they were found. And yet, as Elias glanced at Lyra walking beside him, strong, silent, and glowing in the moonlight, he couldn't help but feel that something powerful was growing between them, something that no empire, no war could ever destroy. The forest was alive with strange sounds. The air shimmered faintly with blue mist, and the leaves glowed when touched. Every step Elias and Lyra took made the ground hum softly beneath their feet, as if the planet itself was breathing. They had been walking for hours. The crash site was far behind them, just a faint glow on the horizon. Elias carried a small pack of supplies while Lyra moved ahead, scanning the path with her wrist device. Are you sure this is the right direction? Elias asked. Lyra nodded. There's an energy signal coming from the north. It could be shelter. Or danger. Elias chuckled tiredly. That's comforting. They reached a clearing surrounded by tall crystal-like trees. The light from the twin moons reflected off their surfaces, painting everything in silver and blue. Elias stopped for a moment, looking up at the sky. It's beautiful, he said softly. Lyra turned to him. You humans always say that. Because we still notice, he replied. She smiled faintly. For a moment she forgot the war, the empire, and the endless orders she'd followed. Here on this quiet world, it felt like none of that mattered. They set up a small camp under the glowing trees. Lyra activated a small generator that created a protective dome of light. Inside, the air was warmer. Elias sat by the portable heater while Lyra cleaned her weapon. So, Elias said after a while, what happens when your people find us? Lyra's hands paused. They won't stop looking. My father will send hunters. The rebels will send assassins. We're both targets now. Elias stared into the soft light. Guess that makes us partners in trouble. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Partners? Yeah, he said with a grin. You fight better than anyone I've ever seen. I'd be stupid not to stay close. She gave a small laugh, rare but genuine. You're a strange soldier, Elias Grant. He shrugged. I get that a lot. Morning came with a pale golden glow. Strange creatures flew above the trees, shapes like birds made of glass, their wings leaving trails of light. Lyra studied them with quiet fascination. Elias walked over carrying two strange fruits he had found. Breakfast, he said. Lyra looked at them suspiciously. Are they safe? Only one way to find out, Elias said, taking a bite. His face twisted immediately. Okay, maybe not. Lyra tried not to laugh but failed. You humans are fearless. And foolish. Mostly foolish, he said, spitting out the fruit. But I made you laugh, so that's a win. She shook her head, amused. You're impossible. Before Elias could reply, Lyra's scanner beeped softly. She frowned and looked at the display. The signal I tracked last night, it's close. What kind of signal?
he asked. It's
Old, she said. Alien technology. Very old. They followed the signal deeper into the forest. The trees grew denser, the air thicker with blue mist. Finally, they reached a massive stone structure half buried in the ground. It pulsed faintly with light. Elias stepped closer. What is this? Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. It's a memory vault. From the First Dominion. The what? The original alien empire, she said. Before the current one. Before the wars. Elias looked at her. You mean, your ancestors built this? Yes, she said softly. And they vanished long before my people ruled the stars. The entrance opened with a low hum as Lyra pressed her palm against a symbol on the wall. Inside, the air was cool and dry. Strange crystal pillars lined the room, filled with floating holographic images, memories frozen in time. Elias walked slowly between them. He saw images of alien cities filled with light, of beings that looked peaceful, kind. Not like conquerors. Lyra touched one of the pillars. A figure appeared, a tall alien woman with glowing eyes and a crown like Lyra's. Her voice echoed through the chamber. To love beyond your kind is to defy fate, but sometimes only love can save a dying world. Elias turned to Lyra. What was that? Lyra stared at the image, her expression unreadable. An old prophecy. My people believe it's just myth. Do you? She hesitated. I used to think it was nonsense. Now, I'm not so sure. Elias stepped closer to her. Why? She looked up at him, her voice quiet. Because I see it happening. He didn't know what to say. The air between them felt heavy, charged with something unspoken. Then the ground trembled. The lights in the vault flickered. Lyra spun toward the entrance. Someone's coming. How? Elias asked. No one even knows we're here. She grabbed his arm. The signal we followed, it wasn't just power. It was a beacon. We walked right into a trap. The walls began to glow red. The sound of engines filled the air. Outside, a shadow passed over the trees, a large ship descending through the clouds. Elias clenched his fists. Rebels? Lyra nodded. And they're not here to talk. They ran out of the vault as beams of red light cut through the forest. Explosions shook the ground. Elias grabbed his weapon and fired at the descending soldiers. Lyra joined him, her eyes blazing with determination. One of the rebels shouted in their harsh alien tongue. Capture the princess alive! Kill the human! Elias smirked. Guess I'm popular. Lyra looked at him sharply. We can't fight them all. There's an underground exit in the vault. Go. I'm not leaving you, Elias said. She glared at him. That's an order. I don't take orders from you, he said, firing again. Their eyes met, both stubborn, both unwilling to back down. Then she sighed. Fine, together. They sprinted back into the vault as the ceiling began to collapse. The old structure roared like thunder. Behind them, the rebels closed in fast. Lyra pressed her hand against another wall symbol, and a hidden door opened, revealing a dark tunnel. Elias looked at her. Ladies first, she rolled her eyes. Humans. They slipped inside, the door sealing behind them just as the rebels stormed the chamber. The tunnel was narrow and filled with glowing roots. The sound of battle faded behind them, replaced by the hum of the living planet. Lyra stopped suddenly. Elias, she said quietly, touching one of the roots. This planet, it's not just alive, it's conscious. He stared at her. What do you mean? She turned to him, her eyes wide with realization. It's listening to us. And somewhere deep beneath their feet, the ground pulsed once, like the heartbeat of something vast and ancient. The tunnel stretched endlessly beneath the ground, glowing faintly with veins of blue light. The air was cool and smelled faintly of metal and rain. Elias followed Lyra in silence, listening to the quiet hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. He could feel it now, the slow, steady rhythm beneath his feet like the heartbeat of the planet. Lyra, he said softly, you said it's listening to us. What does that mean? She touched the glowing wall gently. The light beneath her hand brightened, pulsing once. This world isn't just alive, Elias, it's aware. The First Dominion used worlds like this to store knowledge, to protect their history. They called them living archives. So this planet is a memory? In a way, she said. But more than that, it's a guardian. It remembers everything. They kept walking until the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Giant crystal roots spread in every direction, their tips glowing brighter as Lyra stepped forward. In the center of the room stood a massive orb made of translucent light. Inside it swirled thousands of images, faces, cities, stars. Elias took a step closer. "What is that?" Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. "The heart of the world." The orb pulsed and a soft voice filled the chamber, not from speakers but from the air itself. It was calm, warm, and ancient. "Princess Lyra of the Elian Dominion. Captain Elias Grant of Earth, welcome." Elias froze. "It knows us." Lyra's eyes widened. "It shouldn't. This world has been dead for centuries." The voice continued, gentle yet powerful. "Life never dies. It only waits to be remembered." Images formed around them, memories of another time. They saw aliens and humans standing together, not as enemies but as allies. There were no battles, no fire, only peace. Elias whispered, "That's impossible. Humans never met aliens before the war." Lyra stared, her voice trembling. "Maybe we did. Long ago." The images changed, showing a woman who looked almost like Lyra standing beside a human man. They held hands as light surrounded them. "Their love ended the first war," the voice said. "But history forgot them. So the cycle began again." Lyra looked at Elias, her expression unreadable. "It's repeating. We're repeating it." Before Elias could answer, the orb flared brightly. A new image appeared. Alien fleets in flames, human cities in ruins. A voice echoed like thunder. "Two worlds divided by fear will destroy each other. Only unity can heal the wound." Elias clenched his fists. So this war was never meant to happen. Lyra turned toward the orb. "Can it be stopped?" The planet's voice grew softer. "The choice belongs to you." Suddenly the ground shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. The light of the orb flickered. Elias looked up. "What's happening?" Lyra's wrist device beeped rapidly. "The rebels found us again. They're firing on the planet's surface." "You said this world is alive," Elias said. "If they're attacking it, it will fight back." Lyra finished grimly. The tunnel walls glowed brighter, and the hum deepened into a roar. Crystals shattered. Energy surged through the roots like veins of lightning. The planet was waking up. "Lyra, we need to get out of here," Elias shouted, but she didn't move. She was staring at the orb, her eyes wide. "It's trying to speak to me." The orb pulsed again and light surrounded her. Elias shielded his eyes as symbols appeared in the air, spinning around her. Lyra's voice echoed with two tones, hers and the planet's together. "The bond of heart and spirit will end the endless war." Then the light faded and Lyra collapsed. Elias caught her before she hit the ground. "Lyra, stay with me!" Her eyes fluttered open. "I saw everything, the truth. The war, the empires, all of it, it's built on lies. Tell me." She took a shaky breath. "My father started this war to erase history. The aliens weren't our first empire. They were survivors of a world like this. They feared humanity because we once stood as equals." Elias stared at her. "And they hid it?" She nodded weakly. "They buried the truth. They turned peace into myth." The chamber shook again. Cracks ran up the walls. Elias lifted her to her feet. "We have to go now." As they ran toward the tunnel, the orb's voice called once more. "The heart remembers love. Protect it, or all will end." They emerged from the underground tunnel just as explosions lit up the sky. Rebel ships fired down beams of red energy, tearing the forest apart. The planet fought back. Massive roots erupted from the ground, striking the ships with glowing energy. Lyra and Elias ran through the chaos, trying to reach cover. One of the ships crashed nearby, sending a shockwave that threw them both to the ground. Elias crawled toward Lyra. "Are you okay?" She nodded, coughing. "It's protecting us." "It knows." Elias looked up at the burning sky. "If it keeps fighting like this, it'll destroy itself." Lyra stood, steadying herself. "Then we have to make it stop." "How?" She looked at him, her silver eyes filled with fierce light. "The planet said the bond of heart and spirit can end the war." "That bond is us, Elias," he blinked. "Us?" She stepped closer. "You and I are the proof that peace can exist. If we can show them, maybe both sides will listen." He stared at her for a moment, realizing what she meant. "You want to face them?" "Yes," she said. Together, the wind howled around them. The planet trembled beneath their feet. Above, the sky burned red with fire. Elias took her hand. "Then let's end it." Lyra squeezed his hand back. "Together," she whispered. and as they walked toward the light of the burning horizon, the planet's heartbeat grew stronger, slow, deep, alive, watching, waiting, remembering. The horizon burned red as two fleets descended through the clouds. One bore the silver insignia of the alien Dominion, the other the crimson banners of the rebels. The air trembled under the roar of engines. Elias and Lyra stood on the ridge overlooking the valley where the planet's heart pulsed beneath the soil. The ground glowed faintly with blue veins. It was as if the world itself knew what was coming. Lyra's voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed her fear. They're both here. My father's ships, and the rebels. Elias adjusted the rifle slung across his back. So basically everyone wants to kill us. Or control us, Lyra said softly. To them, I'm the key to power, and you're a symbol they can't allow to exist. He gave her a small, crooked smile. Then we better make this count. The planet's sky cracked with thunder as the first beams of light hit the surface. Blue energy shields shimmered around the valley. The living world was defending itself, but it was weakening. Lyra stepped forward, raising her wrist. Her communicator blinked red. I can reach both fleets, she said. If I connect the signal through the planet's network, they'll hear us. Elias looked at her sharply. You're going to talk to them? They won't listen. They will, she said, if they see what's at stake. He hesitated. And if they don't? Lyra's voice was quiet. Then we die trying. She activated the signal. A beam of white light shot upward into the clouds, linking her to both armadas. The sky shimmered with countless holographic displays. Commanders, generals, soldiers, all staring down at her image. This is Princess Lyra of the alien Dominion, she began. Her voice echoed across the heavens. And with me stands Captain Elias Grant of Earth. A murmur ran through the holograms. One of the alien commanders shouted, Traitor! You speak beside a human enemy. Lyra didn't flinch. I speak beside an ally. The war you fight is built on lies. This planet holds the truth, the proof that our races once lived in peace. Her father's voice thundered from the flagship. Enough, you disgrace our name and your bloodline. Surrender yourself now, or I will burn this world to ash. Elias stepped beside her, visible in the transmission. You'll destroy the same world your ancestors built to protect you. That's not victory, that's fear. The rebel leader appeared next, his face marked by old scars. You think words can undo centuries of blood? You're both fools. Lyra looked straight at him. You fight to end tyranny, yet you've become the same thing you hate. The sky rumbled again. The planet's heartbeat grew louder beneath their feet. Blue light began rising from the ground, swirling around them like a storm. Elias looked up. Lyra, the planet's reacting. She closed her eyes, letting the light surround her. It knows we're trying to save it. We have to show them. The holograms flickered. The light from the planet spread through the signal, sending visions into every ship above. The same images Elias and Lyra had seen in the vault. Humans and aliens together, sharing knowledge, building worlds side by side. Gasps filled the airwaves. Soldiers on both sides froze, staring at the memories of peace. Lyra's voice grew stronger, filled with emotion. We were never meant to be enemies. This world remembers what we've forgotten. We can choose to repeat the same hatred, or we can become something greater. Her father's image wavered. You would throw away our empire for a dream? She met his gaze. Not a dream. A future. Then, without warning, the rebel ships fired. The sky turned red as beams of light tore through the clouds. The alien fleet returned fire, and the air exploded in chaos. Elias grabbed Lyra and pulled her down as an explosion shook the ridge. They're not listening, he shouted. She struggled to stand. Then we make them listen. She reached toward the glowing veins of the planet. The light flared brighter, spreading outward like a heartbeat turned into fire. The ground cracked open, revealing streams of pure energy rising into the air. Elias stared in awe. Lyra, what are you doing? Connecting the heart, she said, her voice echoing. If I can merge the planet's energy with the signal, it'll reach every ship. It'll show them everything. He grabbed her arm. That could kill you. She looked at him, tears glinting in her silver eyes. If it ends the war, it's worth it. Elias shook his head. Not like this. Not alone. Without hesitation, he placed his hand over hers on the glowing crystal. The energy surged through both of them, binding their minds together. The light around them grew blinding, and for a moment, they saw everything. Memories, stars, and the faces of two ancient lovers from the first piece. Reliving their story through them, the planet's voice whispered in their minds. The bond is complete. A wave of blue light exploded outward, reaching the fleets above. Every ship froze mid-battle. The soldiers saw visions of hope, of unity, of the endless cycle of hate. The weapons powered down. The sky grew silent. Lyra fell to her knees, weak but alive. Elias caught her in his arms. "It worked," he whispered. "You did it," she smiled faintly. "No, we did." The clouds parted and sunlight broke through for the first time since the war began. Above them, both fleets hovered quietly. Messages came through the comms, orders to cease fire, to stand down. Elias looked up at the sky, tears burning his eyes. "It's over." Lyra rested her head against his chest. "Not yet. Peace isn't born in a single moment. But maybe this is the beginning." The planet's heartbeat slowed to a calm rhythm, glowing softly beneath the soil. For the first time, the galaxy was quiet, and for the first time, Elias believed peace might be possible. Dawn broke softly across the alien valley. The air smelled clean after the storm of battle. Smoke drifted gently from the wreckage of fallen ships, rising into a sky that was, for the first time in ages, quiet. Elias sat beside Lyra near the ridge, watching the light of the twin suns spread over the horizon. She was pale, exhausted, but alive. The planet beneath them pulsed faintly with calm blue light, the same heartbeat that had guided them since the beginning. He turned to her. "You stopped a war," he said quietly. "You did it." Lyra gave a weak smile. "We did it. And maybe." The galaxy finally listened. In the distance, the Dominion ships hovered silently. They were no longer attacking. Instead, small crafts descended from both fleets, soldiers from two sides walking across the same ground without weapons raised. The world had fallen silent, not from victory, but from realization. An armored figure approached from the silver ships. His presence was commanding, cold, and familiar. Lyra's breath caught. "My father." The alien emperor walked forward, tall and stern, his armor shining like molten glass. His eyes held centuries of power and pride. "Lyra," he said, "you disobeyed me. You brought shame to your name." Elias stepped forward instinctively, but Lyra raised a hand. "No," she said. "I brought truth to it." The emperor's gaze shifted to Elias. "You dare stand beside my daughter, human?" Elias met his glare without fear. "I didn't come here to fight, but I'll stand with her always." For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound was the whisper of the wind and the soft hum of the living planet. The emperor's eyes softened just a little. "You are brave for your kind," he turned back to Lyra. "And you are foolish." "Maybe," she said, "but sometimes foolish hearts save empires." The emperor looked around and at the broken ships, the wounded soldiers, and the strange blue light of the world beneath them. He finally spoke, his voice lower. "The planet spoke to me through your signal. It showed me what we were, what we could be again." Lyra took a step closer. "Then end the war. Let the past rest." The emperor closed his eyes as if fighting a battle within himself. Then at last he nodded. "The Dominion will withdraw. The rebellion will be granted peace." Murmurs spread through the valley. Rebels and Dominion soldiers looked at each other, uncertain but hopeful. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." Her father looked at Elias one last time. "Guard her well, human. You may have changed her. But remember, peace is fragile." Elias nodded. "Then we'll protect it together." The emperor turned and walked away, his soldiers following. The rebels began to disarm, slowly, cautiously. The war that had spanned worlds was finally over. Later, as the suns climbed higher, Elias and Lyra stood at the edge of the valley. The planet's energy shimmered softly beneath their feet. "What happens now?" Elias asked. Lyra looked up at the glowing sky. "Rebuilding, healing. My people will need guidance. And your world will need hope," he smiled faintly. "You're going back to lead them." She turned to him, her expression calm but sad. "It's my duty. If I don't, peace won't last." Elias looked down, hiding the pain in his voice. "And me?" Lyra stepped closer, her fingers brushing against his. "You've already done more than any soldier ever could, but..." She paused, searching his face. "There's something the planet showed me before it faded. A choice. The living worlds can connect across galaxies, open bridges between hearts that believe in peace." He blinked. "You mean we could see each other again?" She smiled softly. "If we believe strongly enough, yes." For a long time they said nothing. The air shimmered around them, filled with the scent of alien flowers blooming through the ash. Elias reached out and gently touched her cheek. If this is goodbye, it's not forever. Lyra's eyes glimmered with tears. No, Elias, it's a beginning. She leaned forward and their foreheads touched. The moment was quiet, eternal, the sound of two worlds breathing together. Light surrounded them, warm and golden. The planet's voice echoed one last time in their minds. Love remembered as peace reborn. When the light faded, Lyra stood at the base of her ship, ready to return home. She looked back one last time, smiling through tears. Goodbye, Elias Grant. Elias raised his hand. Goodbye, Princess Lyra. The ship rose slowly, lifting into the morning sky, glowing brighter until it disappeared beyond the clouds. Elias stood alone in the valley, the wind brushing past him like her final whisper. He looked up at the twin suns, one golden, one silver, rising side by side, and he smiled. Because somewhere among the stars, a princess remembered him, and somewhere in his heart the war was truly over.